Snowfall across the southeast Sunday, a challenging forecast, and an incredibly active pattern developing for the final weeks of January. That's what we need to discuss. Right now, conditions across the United States are setting up for a significant weather pattern shift. And if you've been experiencing the back and forth temperatures this week, you're about to understand why that S all changing. Let us start with what S happening right now. Across South Carolina, rainy conditions have dominated the week. Near record warmth. That changes dramatically starting Sunday. Eastern Colorado saw temperatures drop to 17 degrees this morning, wind chills down to 5 degrees. That S, the Arctic air mass we were going to be tracking. South central Wisconsin was seeing rain earlier today. Some areas are already reporting snow starting to fall. That transition is happening as we speak. The contrast couldn't be sharper. Mississippi dealt with severe weather and tornado warnings this morning. Warm, humid, unstable conditions across the Gulf Coast. Meanwhile, the high plains are locked in deep cold. That spread between warm and cold air is about to compress as Arctic air pushes south. Now let's talk about Sunday's system. This has been an exceptionally difficult forecast. I am going to be direct with you about that. The models have shown significant disagreement. Some keep nearly the entire event as rain. Others show accumulating snow as far south as the Florida Panhandle. That is the challenge we're dealing with. The European model from 12 Zulu this morning shows moderate to heavy snow developing across the North Carolina mountains by Saturday morning, especially in the southwestern portions. The Smokies could see several inches. Some snow possible in the Tri-Cities region of Tennessee, extending into Virginia and West Virginia. Don't to be surprised if rain and snow showers occur across the western Piedmont of North Carolina Saturday morning as well. Saturday night into early Sunday morning is where it gets interesting. The model shows mostly rain initially. The cold air simply hasn't worked in yet by 3 or 4 in the morning Sunday, but then things change. By mid-morning Sunday, snow is falling as far south as the western Florida Panhandle, close to Mobile. The 540 line, that is our freezing threshold aloft, is dropping south. Cold air is hitting these areas. By 10 in the morning Sunday, moderate to heavy snow is falling across southern Georgia, the Florida Panhandle, the low country of South Carolina. Snow reaches Columbia, Augusta, possibly Charlotte. Eastern North Carolina lags behind due to how the cold air moves. It's staying rain there on this particular run. Here's why that happens, and this is important to understand. The cold air is coming down from the north, but it hits the higher elevations of the Appalachian Mountains. Dense, shallow, cold air can easily cross those mountains. So it does something interesting. It dips underneath the mountains, flows south along the coastal plain. That SY areas in southern Georgia can see snow, while central South Carolina, which normally has better climatology for snow, stays rain longer. The cold air reaches the south first, then has to work back north and east. It's a lag effect. By Sunday afternoon, the European model shows snow across southeast Georgia, Savannah, Beaufort, all the way to Orangeburg. Charleston seeing snow, but eastern North Carolina still rain. That lag continuing. The latest 18 Zulu run from this evening shows similar features. An inch to inch and a half of snow across central to south central Georgia. It's like the model knows exactly where the South Carolina-Georgia border is and stops there. Dusting amounts in the Carolinas on that run. Now the GFS model. What does it show? Similar setup Saturday night. Rain and snow mix across the Mid-South up into the Ohio Valley. Heavier snow at higher elevations. Lower elevations rain across western North Carolina. By Sunday morning, the GFS also has blue, meaning snow as far south as Florida. Southeast Alabama seeing snow. Almost reaching the southern Atlanta suburbs. Not just moderate snow. Heavy snow in southern Georgia. Valdosta could see 2 to 3 inches. Areas that saw snow almost exactly 1 year ago. Rain switching to snow in the central Midlands of South Carolina. By 1 p.m. Sunday, snow all the way up to Charlotte. Almost to Greenville, Spartanburg. Light snow in Columbia as rain tries to switch over. Heavy snow continues in southern Georgia. Looking at the 4-run trend on the GFS, we see the classic northwest trend. This happens with overrunning events every single time. Nothing surprising about it. The question is, how far northwest does this continue to trend? Can heavier moisture make it into Columbia, where it becomes a band of heavy wet snow? Very possible. The short-range models add another layer of complexity. The NAM model shows a tight band of snow at the northwestern fringe of the precipitation. Atlanta right on the edge. Greenville, Spartanburg, Columbia. starting as a rain-snow mix, then switching to heavy wet snow in some areas. This one to be dry, fluffy snow. If you get snow from this system, it will be classic southern snow. Wet, huge snowflakes. You might go from rain to heavy snowfall very quickly if dynamic cooling occurs in the right location. Surface temperatures will hit 60 degrees tomorrow across much of the southeast. Then 12 to 18 hours later, snow. That's the setup. The 3-kilometer NAM model shows higher resolution detail. By 4 in the morning Sunday, some snow and rain trying to switch as far north as Greensboro, Raleigh, Charlotte. By 9 or 10 in the morning, snow in Columbia, Raleigh, Charlotte, Augusta, right on the fringe. A couple hours of heavy wet snow can produce an inch just like that. Raleigh could get several hours of snow before it wraps up. Not all models agree. The HRR model is very southeast with this system. In fact, it shows almost no snow because the moisture doesn't get far enough west to encounter the cold air. Nothing but rain. No blue on the map at all. That's a possible scenario. The RRFS model, which may eventually replace the NAM, shows mostly rain. Tries to switch some areas to snow in southeast Alabama and central Georgia Sunday morning. It's hard to take this one seriously because it keeps areas rain that almost certainly want to be. But it does eventually switch to heavy accumulating snow in parts of the region Sunday night. What about snowfall totals? The National Weather Service forecast shows a small area over South Carolina, a few tenths of an inch up there, an inch or two of snow in the mid-Atlantic, and a highlighted area in central Georgia where they recalling for an inch of snow. The 12 Zulu European Ensemble, which averages 51 members, shows a signal for snow in Georgia. Remember, ensemble guidance is often more reliable than individual model runs, especially in the short range, though global models aren't always the best tool this close in. There's a gap in coverage, then elevated amounts in certain areas. The GFS delivers 2 to 3 inches of snow in parts of southeast and central Georgia. I think that's possible. Whoever stays snow the longest and crashes the column, Valdosta could see 2 to 3 inches, then it cuts off sharply once you get into central South Carolina. Models seem to like that idea. Looking at everybody as a whole, there's a sliver of snow shown across Delaware, Maryland, eastern Virginia. A couple inches of wet snow possible in the Tidewater and Delmarva regions. The GFS ensemble doesn't look as good. Shows a highlighted area across the Mid-Atlantic and Tidewater down into southern Georgia. That could be how it plays out. The NAM is aggressive. Central Georgia and South Carolina get a swath of a few inches of heavy wet snow. The model gives areas around Columbia about 2 to 2.5 inches, but look how narrow the band is. It cuts off right around Mecklenburg County, goes through Monroe. If this verified, northern Mecklenburg County north of Charlotte would get nothing. Monroe would get 3 inches of snow. That is not a forecast. Don T, tell anyone that's what I am predicting, but it shows how sharp these cutoffs can be with southern snow events. I don't think anybody getting 6 inches from this system. The 12-kilometer NAM is less aggressive in Georgia, shows half-inch to inch totals here and there. But in North Carolina and southeast Virginia, it gets much more aggressive. 2 to 4, even 5 inches through parts of North Carolina, southeast Virginia, into southern Maryland and Delaware. Now let's talk about the energy driving this system. We've figured out how to trend the energy west. It is digging further west with each run. This is what we call a positively tilted trough. When energy tilts southwest to northeast, that S positive tilt. When it tilts straight up and down, that S neutral. When it tilts northwest to southeast, that S negative tilt. Negative tilt means a strengthening storm system. All the dynamics increase. It becomes a high impact event. We're not even going to come close to negative tilt with this system. I don't think we'll even get to neutral tilt anymore. As the energy dives across the southeast, it remains positively tilted, a weak progressive system. But weak systems can still produce significant snow in the right setup. So what do I think is going to happen? I am confident that areas of Georgia will see accumulating snow, maybe even the Florida Panhandle. Somewhere in those Georgia areas will likely get an inch or two of wet snow. I think there will be another jackpot area somewhere in northeast North Carolina into the Mid-Atlantic region. The big question mark is the I-95 corridor from Raleigh down to Orangeburg over to Columbia and Charlotte. Will we struggle with cold air lag? I think the moisture will absolutely be there, especially around Columbia. And I am not saying that because at S, where I happen to live, Columbia is a fascinating location for this system, plenty of moisture, but potentially a cold air lag issue. So when you ask me about specific towns, I'm going to give you a bunch of maybes and possibilities, and I don't knows. I know that that's not what you want to hear. But if I am being completely honest, I don't know exactly what is going to happen. I don't think the National Weather Service would say it publicly like I will, but I don't think they know for certain either. This system is extremely challenging to forecast. But here is what I am confident about. We about to enter a very active winter pattern. And that brings us to what happens after Sunday. Looking at the upper level pattern at 500 millibars. The blues and bluish greens represent troughing, lower pressure, lower heights. It brings down cold air, has energy associated with it. The reds and pinks are ridging, high pressure. After Sunday S system swings through, we were going to have a substantial trough dig down, not super aggressive to the south initially, but at S there, this happens Monday. We've got the trough digging, big ridge spiking all the way up into Alaska. That's called a negative EPO, Eastern Pacific Oscillation. When Alaska warms up and we still have a positive PNA, Pacific North American pattern in place, it dislodges cold air, creates a dip in the jet stream. Nasty cold air funnels down to the south. This will be another blast of really cold air moving across the middle to eastern portions of the country. Then I think we have a brief moderation period for the extreme south. You'll see a broad ridge developing, but there is still a trough up north. That continues to funnel cold through the northern tier. It creates an active storm track right at the boundary between the trough and the ridge. We re-entering a very active pattern. Moving forward, we've had a trend over the last 24 hours, about 6 to 7 days from now, for a big broad trough to break open the ridge across the southern tier of the country. Looking at the 3-run trend, watch how the ridge breaks open. The trough is trending further south for next Thursday and Friday. That means the cold air is trending south. That means the storm track is going to trend south. You need to watch next week closely. That is a trend in the medium range. This is not long range. This is inside 7 days. We were going to be locking into something else right after this storm system. The ridge tries to show back up around the 7 to 10 day mark. Then you get another strong signal for a trough over the eastern U.S. That's a cold and dry look. But we have plenty of time for that to trend one way or another. That is a very cold run. This goes all the way out to the morning of January 31st. It is still only January 17th. We have so much of winter still ahead. How does all that upper level pattern translate to temperatures? Looking at this weekend, Sunday's storm system brings a shot of cold air. Very cold again after the brief warm-up tomorrow across the south. Enjoy that warmth tomorrow. Early next week, Monday into Tuesday, another shot of very cold air. These are very cold anomalies, 20 to 25 degrees below average showing up. For the heart of winter, mid to late January is climatologically the coldest time of winter for any given area across the lower 48. When you have 5 to as much as 30 degrees below average, that cold air moves in, lingers, you get a brief warm-up, some warmer colors showing up on the maps. But does it even warm up much? Because immediately by next Thursday, it starts to cool right back down again. The warm-up across the south just gets thumped away. It gets cold again. Look at how cold it gets at the end of the run. A few weeks ago, I mentioned that I thought we would see a risk of significant Arctic air in the second half of January, maybe an all-out Arctic outbreak. I am more confident in that now than ever. That is a cold look for late January standards. That cold air bleeds even further south at the end of the model run, 300 hours out. Very cold. What about moisture linking up with this cold air for winter weather? Looking at the jet stream at 200 millibars, 35 to 40,000 feet up, way up where the jet stream flows, our storm track. Moving forward into late next week, you can see highlighted areas of orange and red. That is an active storm track. It gets even more active between day 7 and day 10 into next weekend. Next Sunday is a time frame I am watching closely. The atmosphere is going to get locked and loaded with an active storm track. Let's look at operational model runs. I am already starting to lock in on another time frame, starting with the central U.S. Next Thursday morning already showing some snow in Arkansas and western Tennessee. Move past that. A week from today, there's a huge amount of moisture thrown across the plains into the Midwest and Mississippi Valley. Look at that ice storm showing up, not a forecast. But for areas of Oklahoma, Arkansas moving into the Mid-South, significant icing potential. Snow on top of it. That pink is freezing rain. The GFS shows something similar but gets it going earlier. Next Thursday morning, the 22nd. Winter mess from Oklahoma and Kansas into Missouri. Don T focused too much on specifics yet. We'll get there in time. Cold air pressing down. Next Friday, next Saturday, same system the European shows. A lot of moisture overrunning cold Arctic air. A huge wintry scenario, not a forecast. Still figuring it out. Then it moves into the eastern U.S. Continues to be active past 10 days out. A lot of cold air, an active look. For the eastern U.S., where a large portion of the audience is located. First, we need to watch an event midweek next week, Wednesday night into Thursday morning, moisture out there. This is in that brief moderation period where it might warm up slightly, but it's still cold enough for snow as far south on the European model as northern Alabama and northern Mississippi. Shows a swath of accumulating snow through Tennessee, hitting the mountains. Even tries to show some snow in northern North Carolina into the mid-Atlantic. Move past that. A massive winter storm breaks out across the Mid-South into the Midwest and the Appalachians. Cold air comes in. All of a sudden, it shows an ice storm across the Carolinas. Winter storm to the north. That is a concerning icy look as we get into next Sunday into Monday. Not a forecast. But it is a time frame we re-watching closely. By Martin Luther King Day, we already going to be talking about another time frame. It's non-stop right now. Move past that. The models show a lot of cold air digging down. Snow all the way to Myrtle Beach at 300 hours out. Not a forecast. The GFS shows the same thing. Start with next Wednesday. We need to watch that event. A little more amped up on the GFS. Warmer. Next Thursday evening shows some snow across the Ohio Valley, areas of the Midwest and Mid-South, wintry mess across Tennessee, cold trying to press down. That system leaves. Then here comes the same system the European shows, cold air trying to press down on moisture. This is a cold air damming event. That's how we score east of the mountains. Shows a massive wintry area across the eastern U.S. The orange is sleet, pink is freezing rain. Don T focused so much on those specifics yet, but a huge winter storm across the entire area you see in pink, orange, and blue. Move past that. Another event shows up. It looks very active. The Climate Prediction Center day 6 through 10 outlook tries to indicate a brief warm-up. But northern sections of the country look cold. Confidence is very high. The further north you get, almost the entire country looks moist. Everybody's been saying cold and dry, cold and dry. Well, the official outlook says it's about to get moist. That backs up everything I just showed you. The 8 to 14 day outlook goes from the 24th through the 30th. Chances of below average temperatures begin to drop southward. Chances of above average precipitation across the east. The new 3 to 4 week outlook from the 31st through halfway into February keeps cold air around across the northeast, mid-Atlantic, upper southeast, and the Midwest. This is going to be an extremely cold winter across areas of the north. Looking at the risk of heavy snow from the Weather Prediction Center, there's a slight risk going all the way down to Tennessee in the southern Appalachians. Pretty large area. What got my attention is the several day time period highlighted, even a few day time period in some areas. I think this will adjust as we get closer. Why does it look so cold? We've been talking about the MJO. Madden-Julian Oscillation. Phases 6, 5, and 4, and 3 are generally warmer phases. Phase 3 can work for winter weather sometimes. Phase 7 is a transition phase. Phases 8, 1, and 2 are cold and wintry phases. Where are we now and where are we heading? Right now, we in phase 6, which is interesting because we about to get a winter weather event across the southeast in phase 6. Over the next few days, we move into phase 7. We only stay there for 3 or 4 days. Then almost all guidance shows us getting to phase 8, the golden phase for winter weather and cold across the central and eastern U.S. for the entire last week of January and beyond. High latitude blocking, favorable teleconnections, blocking out west, blocking up top, a favorable MJO progression. To me, this is all pointing toward an active period for winter weather. We not done. If you don't get snow this Sunday across the southeast, don't get discouraged. There will be other opportunities. Maryland, I know many of you have been waiting for snow. You have gone 2 years without a major snowstorm in some areas. This pattern has potential moving forward. Let me finish with this. Much of what I've shown you today is model guidance. When I show you National Weather Service forecast graphics, those are actual forecasts from meteorologists, human beings analyzing the data. Everything else is model guidance. I give you my take on what I think could happen, but I don't create my own snowfall maps for every state. The 4 to 5 inches shown on the NAM for Raleigh, that S, the NAM model. That is not me saying Raleigh will definitely get 4 to 5 inches. I think it's overdone. My opinion would be that we could get a few inches of wet snow in that axis. It's very possible. That's the overachieving scenario. The underachieving scenario is everyone just gets rain. I don't think there will be much of a completely dry scenario. If you are forecast to stay dry, like Atlanta, Greenville, Spartanburg, Charlotte, Greensboro, chances are you will stay dry. But the pattern ahead looks very active. Next week is setting up to be interesting. The week after that, potentially even more so. We re-entering the heart of winter, the climatologically coldest time of the year, with an active storm track, cold air in place. That is the setup for winter weather. Keep an eye on the forecasts. Check the National Weather Service for your specific area. They'll have the most localized official forecast information. Be prepared for rapid changes in the weather over the coming weeks. Stay safe out there. We'll continue tracking